Happy Hump Day, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's NSCAA Google Hangout. I'm Monique Bowman, today's moderator, as well as the association's communications manager. So just a few weeks ago was National Signing Day, and for those who may or may not be familiar, it's a day when athletes make an announcement as to when they will, where they will continue their playing careers as well as their educational endeavors. So in light of that, what's next? What should players expect? So with us today are two folks from California at least. Northern California, sorry. We have Leslie Osborne, former U.S. National Women's Team midfielder, as well as Santa Clara head women's coach, Jerry Smith. And they are joining us from, as you can see in the background, the Jerry Smith Coaching for Life Academy. We'll get into that a little bit later, but today's discussion will be talking about the player transition to the next level. So if you're familiar with our Hangouts, or if you're not, feel free to send in questions. You can send them in on Twitter using the hashtag NSCAA Live, or you can email them to marketing@nscaa.com, and we'll try to address as many as we can on air. So let's jump into today's discussion. Many of our viewers may or may not be familiar with you, so can you just, each of you, give us a brief background about yourself, and then also we'll kind of talk about the academy next after that.
Sure. I'm Leslie Osborne. I am from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was lucky enough to be recruited here at Santa Clara along with other schools, Virginia, Notre Dame, UCLA. The moment I came here for my official visit, I wanted to come to Santa Clara. I had an amazing 4 years here playing, won a national championship my freshman year, went to Final Four 3 more times. Unbelievable experience here. I was then fortunate enough to play on the U.S. Women's National Team for 7 years. I got to be part of 2 women's professional leagues, the WPS and the NWSL. I just retired last year in January. I started to work here at Santa Clara University. I do a variety of things here. I'm the Director of Leadership Development. I'm a sports supervisor, and I work with a lot of different people here around campus trying to help promote Santa Clara. I also am a TV studio host for Fox Sports, and I'll be doing the Women's World Cup this summer. And that's just a quick summary of myself.
Yeah, and so I'm Jerry Smith. I'm the head coach for the women's soccer team here at the university. I've been here 28 years. I came here as the head coach for women and assistant for men. I did both jobs for 3 years, and for the last 25 years, just working with the women's team here. So we have started this new endeavor here at the university, which is the university is calling the Jerry Smith Coaching for Life Academy. Leslie's our director, and we're offering our first class to undergrads and grad students this next term, and we're looking forward to developing a master's program in sports leadership. So that's one of the many exciting things that we got going on over here.
Okay. And Jerry, can you tell us a little bit more about how the academy, I guess, came about, the origins of it?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is shine a brighter light on the most important aspect of coaching. And for sake of this conversation, we'll talk about sport coaching. And whether it's basketball or football or baseball or soccer, the most important thing that coaches try and do for their student athletes is teach them life skills. Things like accountability and time management, conflict resolution, teamwork, communication, leadership, stress management. All of these things are really the most important factors and how we try to help our student athletes grow. Sport, at some level, goes away for all of us. Whether we're lucky enough to have Leslie's career path and play for the national team and be a professional athlete, or high school is the last stop for us, wherever that last stop may be, we're hoping that the skills learned through sport will then translate to other aspects of our life, and that's really for us the most important message we're trying to get across in the Coaching for Life Academy.
So, Jerry, in your experience as a head coach, you're working with players who are making the jump all the time. What are some of the components that you've noticed that helps with the smooth transition from high school to college?
Yeah, I would say, kind of framing my answer, that this is the biggest jump you'll make. I really think that it's really one of the most challenging times for a young person. You're moving away from home for the first time. Everybody around you is brand new. There's new terminology. There's new responsibility. There's newfound freedom. There is a higher level of play, higher level of expectation. You've gone from the big fish in the small pond to the small fish in the big pond, and it's a really, really tough transition. So that freshman year is really tough. But I think there are some strategies prior to entering your freshman year and certainly during your freshman year to make the transition just a little smoother. It's never going to be really smooth, but if you can make it a little smoother, I think you're give yourself a chance of having real success as a collegiate student athlete. And I think some of those challenges are going to be time management. That's probably one of the biggest ones. We spend, the amount of time you spend in sport training, whether it's in the training room, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's film work, whether it's skill training outside of practice, the amount of time spent is going to be quite a bit more than what you're used to. And I think one of those areas where students really, at least what I've seen, they come in here not knowing how to do film work. And we do quite a bit of film work. I'd say our players do film work every week. And so there's a number of different hours that you're going to have at the collegiate level that you don't have currently at the high school level, that I think you got to try to figure that out. One of the things we do with our schedule, the players actually schedule in their downtime because it's hard to find downtime. And if you think, oh, I'll just wait to have some downtime, that's not the way you want to do it. It just doesn't work out that way. So time management becomes a really big one. I think patience. I think you got to be patient. You're coming into a program where the players have a year or 2 or 3 years of experience at learning the system and knowing the terminology and being comfortable with the speed of play, that you got to have a degree of kind of patience while you're kind of getting up to speed. And then probably the last one is mental toughness. The mental toughness of going from a training session or a game where you are used to dominating and things really going your way to really having a lot of things go against you and not having as much success in training and feeling like you're letting somebody down, yourself, your parents, your coaches, and I think you just have to be patient and allow yourself a little time to get up to speed. So I think those are some of the critical things in making the transition.
Okay, great. Now, Leslie, let's talk a little bit about your process from high school to college, and then we can also maybe even touch on from college to even the pro and international level. Can you describe like what you went through, what you learned on all of that?
Yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin, and there wasn't a lot of emphasis on women's soccer there. So because of that, it forced me to play with my sister and her friends to try to play with girls that were better because there just wasn't a huge population of women playing. So I ended up playing with girls that were 3 years older than me all the time, and then I would play with her friends that are guys. So I started to play with the boys all the time and my sister's friends, so they were always bigger, stronger, faster, playing quicker than me. And although at the time I didn't really realize the impact it was making on my actual game, it was huge. I was also fortunate enough to play for the U.S. youth national teams, and I worked my way up in ODP. I started out at U11, U12, and worked my way up to the regional team and to the youth national teams. And because of our crazy schedule, even on the U14s and the U16s preparing for the U19 World Cup, we were traveling a ton. And because of that, I had to figure out the time management piece and working with my teachers in high school and missing 1 week, 2 weeks at a time. So I was already prepping for that stuff in high school without realizing how much easier the transition for me at Santa Clara my freshman year was going to be, because I was already doing all that stuff. When I got here, for me, the transition wasn't that difficult, because on the soccer field, I was playing with people always bigger, older, faster than me. So when I went to the college game, it wasn't as much of a huge jump as for other players. Same too with my school and time management and balancing my social life and everything here. I was doing that in high school starting my freshman year. So personally for me, the youth national teams really prep me for the transition from high school to college.
Okay. And kind of straying from a little bit from the script, how did you help maybe your teammates transition? Because you did, like you said, you have, a little bit more experience behind you, whereas maybe, your fellow freshmen may not have.
Yeah.
How did you help them out, or, anything like that?
I think having a good leader and examples is key. And for me, my freshman year, I was looking up to Allie Wagner and Danielle Slayton and seeing how they operated. And soccer and school were their priorities. However, they also wanted to make time for their teammates and friends here. So they really balanced their social life, soccer, and school. And I watched that. And for me, I just wanted to be a leader and set the example. So I think a lot of my teammates, my roommate actually coming in my freshman year, she really didn't have a lot of a social life in high school because soccer was her only priority. So when she got here, she kind of went crazy because there was so many things going on. It was hard for her to juggle school, soccer, and the social life. So for me, I think I was trying to set an example, and I learned that example from the people that were ahead of me, like Danielle Slayton, Allie Wagner. I think in life and in soccer and in school, the key is having good role models, because I feel very fortunate for having them, and if I didn't have that, I'm not sure what route I would have taken.
Great. Thank you for that. And you both can answer this question, but Leslie, I'll start with you. Millions of young people graduate from high school and go on to college, but the transition for an athlete is a little bit different. Can you kind of describe the differences between, just a student versus a student athlete?
Yeah. I didn't dream of being a professional soccer player when I was younger. I didn't start playing until I was 10. So it wasn't until high school where I started to think about, oh, maybe I could play professional soccer. But my parents were so focused with my school and my soccer that being a professional soccer player really wasn't, it just kind of seemed like a dream, right? And so when I was in high school and I got to college, it was really my freshman year when I started to work with Jerry on a weekly basis talking about my goals in life. What do I want to do in my 4 years here? What do I want to do post-college? And it started then when I got called into the U21s and the full national team that we started to realize if I keep working my hardest and keep getting better, I could be a professional soccer player. However, I was taught through Jerry and my other influences in my life that if I have an injury and if something happens to me, what am I going to do? What are my passions? What am I good at? What do I want to get into? And so my time here, I focused a lot on soccer, and that was my priority, but I always made sure that I had a backup plan, because the chance of being a professional soccer player is very slim, and to play on the U.S. team is even more slim. And it's a different life just playing professional soccer versus playing on the national team. There's a lot more opportunity when you play for the U.S. team. So I never wanted to take that for granted and think that that was going to be my route. So I guess I always planned that if it didn't work out, what was I going to do? And that way my jump from college to professional was a lot easier. And having said that, playing professional soccer, I still continued to dabble into other things I was interested in, like TV and charity work and coaching and working with companies and being a spokesperson and really preparing for that next step, because at any given second you can break your leg and have a major injury and you're done with soccer. And then what? Who are you? What are you going to do in life? And I feel, again, very thankful for my role models and the people that helped shape my perspective and my vision and my career on the field and off the field.
So essentially going from this to, maybe soccer in school to like this is what the difference was for you.
Yeah, it helped me. Sometimes when I focused so much on soccer, I didn't play as well. And I remember coming into Jerry's office after I got cut from the 2004 Olympic team, and my confidence was down, down to the floor. I had nothing left in me, you know? And I think it hit me then in 2004 that I have to make sure that my family, my school, everything around me, the other things I enjoy in life, that those are a priority too. Because once for me, I wrapped everything around soccer, I didn't want my happiness to be just judged on that. And I think that that's where Jerry and some people here really helped me, you know, be as involved as I possibly can and have a lot of different passions and options and opportunities. So I'm ready for anything.
Great. Jerry, your thoughts on the difference between student athlete versus a student per se?
Yeah, I think you're looking at just you have, it's back to time management. We're going to ask you to put in about 20 hours a week in addition to that maybe 20 hours a week just in your sport development. So again, that could be meetings, it could be training sessions, it could be film work, it could be time in strength and conditioning, it could be time in the training room. I don't think players really appreciate how much time they have to be in the training room, you know, whether it's 30 to 45 minutes before practice or 30 to 45 minutes after practice. And there's only so many hours in a day, and so now you're saying there's 20 additional hours that as a student athlete you have to spend over and above what a normal student would be doing. So you know, you have to prioritize. I think prioritizing is the key, and the first priority has to be your academic success. As a student athlete, your second priority has to be your sports success, and then as long as those two things are being met at a high level in terms of your focus, then you fill in the gaps with the rest of your time. But when you're looking at taking a full load of courses, the amount of homework that you have to do outside of class time, and adding in the sport development, you know, you're only left with so many hours in the week for other activity. And so, but as Leslie said, that other activity is really important. You have to have that balance. And this is a little counterintuitive, but sometimes taking your mind off of your sport is going to allow you to perform better. So, you know, whether it was Leslie or Allie Wagner or other kind of very motivated, driven athletes I've worked with here, one of their secrets to success actually was perhaps not focusing all of their energy in soccer. I know Leslie told her story. I know Allie Wagner's story was she was in a lot of full national team camps, but never made the World Cup roster, never made the Olympic roster. And I remember having a meeting with her where essentially she said, it's not that I don't care anymore, but I'm going to stop putting so much pressure on myself to make a big roster. And of course, in doing so, she made the very next roster. And so that balance is really an important part. But if in answering your question, the difference between a college student and a college student athlete is probably about 20 hours a week, every week of the year, and in most cases, part or all of your summer as well. And so, you know, you're adding 20 hours a week onto an already very busy schedule. Something's got to give.
Yeah. Now we all know that there's differences between, you know, coaching male players and female players. Are there differences between male and female players when making the transition from high school or, you know, the lower levels to college?
No, I think there are definitely differences in coaching for sure. I think Leslie might be better at answering the question about, you know, transitioning to college. And you know, for me, the first thing I think about when I think about transition to college are the social challenges and the kind of newfound freedoms and, you know, how to handle those things. And Leslie could probably talk a little bit better about, you know, what she went through. But in terms of coaching the student athletes, yeah, they're a little bit, they're different. And I've enjoyed coaching young men and young women equally, but they're just different. One of the challenges that I find with the young women I'm working with oftentimes is how hard they are on themselves and how they're kind of their own worst enemy when it comes to the mental side of the game and confidence. And so I spend a lot of time trying to build confidence. And here in our program, we do a lot of goal setting. And I think goal setting is one of the keys to kind of chipping away at your development. And we never set any goals on confidence, just like we don't set goals on winning. We see confident and winning as byproducts of other goals that we've set. So, for example, if someone is not feeling confident, we try to get to the bottom of why they're not feeling confident and work on that. For example, it could be someone is not completing a high enough percentage of passes. Well, we might have to dig down another league. Is it because you didn't look around first? Is it because you didn't prepare the ball into the right space? Is it because you weren't in the middle of the pocket and had a little more space? So we try to dig down to what is really the root of the problem. Then we attack that. And it could be as simple as get into the middle of the pocket so you have more time. That allows you another half a second to complete your pass. Now that you're completing more passes, you feel more confident. Now that you feel more confident, other things get unlocked for you. So I think really it's the confidence piece and how do we attack confidence, and usually that's digging down another layer or two. That's one of the biggest differences for me.
Okay. Leslie, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's very similar for freshmen, girls and boys to come to college. I think you're experiencing the same sort of things. Time management, figuring out, how to balance your social life here. There's a lot of exciting things coming to college your freshman year and figuring out, what's in the best interest for your team and for yourself and making big decisions. I think on the guys' side, there's a bigger difference from a freshman to a senior just in terms of their build. And they're just naturally going to have to work harder in the weight room to get bigger because I think the seniors compared to the freshmen, there's a bigger difference. In terms of women, there's not as much difference. However, how fast the game is being played on the women's side is a difference. But I think for guys, just their weight and their built, right, as a freshman is going to be different than playing with the juniors and seniors. But I think it's a very similar sort of transition for both teams. And I had really good friends on the guys team here my freshman year. Actually, 2 were from Wisconsin. So we started to experience the same sort of things, missing our family from Wisconsin, figuring out not seeing your family very often, the social life, having a job and playing soccer here, dealing with maybe not being the best player here and coming from an environment where you were the best player. There's a lot of things that come into it, but I think for the most part they're very similar things that both guys and girls experience.
Great, thank you for that. This was emailed in from Tom Denigris, sorry if I'm butchering your name, in New Jersey. And the majority of his players are freshmen in high school. So what advice do you have for him to give to his freshmen as they're, kind of looking 4 years down the road?
Yeah, I think the best advice is to probably just, it's not too early to kind of start developing these good habits. Really, that's what it is. It's developing good habits. It's start working on your game outside of practice. I think that's a really good message. You're probably not going to be able to play at the college level unless you're working at your game outside of team practice. And certainly when you get to the college level, if you actually want to play in the games, you're going to have to work at your game outside of team practice. So the idea of having soccer homework and setting some goals for yourself in terms of your development and working on your game without the coaches being there or outside of team practice is probably one of the good habits they can start to develop. I think another one is film work. I absolutely think film is the best teaching tool we have. We do quite a bit of film work here, and so in starting to do the film work now, you're preparing yourself for being able to make that transition to college where you are going to do a lot of film work, and probably more importantly, you're going to see some things on film that are really going to be able to help you understand how you can improve, and you're just going to enjoy the game at a higher level by doing some film work. So I think, and everyone can do film work now. We can just open up our phone and videotape something. And what you want to do is you want to have, sit down with your coach, look at the film, talk about the technical areas that you need to improve, talk about some tactical areas you need to improve, and that film work can really help you with that. And then I think probably the last two on this point for me would be speed of play and strength and conditioning. So I think it's good to get into a good strength and conditioning program, and I think the freshman year in high school is a good place to kind of start developing a good strength and conditioning program. And of course, it has to be sport specific, it has to be gender specific, and you need experts to help you develop that. But I think to develop good habits at a strength and conditioning regimen would certainly be beneficial and once again help them make the transition to college, where our players are doing strength and conditioning work with our strength and conditioning coach 3 to 5 days a week. They're with the strength and conditioning coach. It might only be for 30 minutes, it might be for 90 minutes, but it's not with the soccer ball, and they need to understand that's part of their development as an athlete. And then, what was the fourth thing I was going to say there? Oh, gosh darn it, I just said it and I forgot it already. So, speed of play. So the speed of play issue really is a big one, and I think, again, if you're not going to go onto the college game, you don't have to necessarily worry about the speed of play issue, but the college game is quite a bit faster than the high school game, and I think to already start dabbling into ways of putting yourself in an environment where your speed of play gets challenged. And as Leslie said, oftentimes that's either playing with older players or playing with boys. And I think for the player that's hoping to go on and play in college, getting into an environment where they're forced to play at a faster speed of play, starting in the freshman year of high school, would certainly allow them to make the transition to college a little more smoothly.
All right, and then this, I think you already kind of touched on this question, but I'll ask it anyway, from Ian Stoddard in Florida. What would be your top 3 technical skills that girls specifically don't do well in high school but are necessary at the college level?
Yeah, I think at the college level, for the women's game, I would say if I had to pick 3, it would probably be heading, driving balls over distance, and tackling. Obviously we want our players to receive the ball well, we want them to pass the ball well, and, in certain situations you have to dribble well, and obviously if you play towards the front of the team you've got to be able to score goals well. But, I don't see any major deficiencies there when I go out and watch youth soccer, but heading is an issue. There aren't enough players who head the ball well, and I think heading almost shouldn't be a category, honestly. I've said this before. If we have heading, why don't we have footing? We don't have footing. I don't think footing is a thing on the skill sheet, but we have passing with the feet, receiving with the feet, shooting with the feet, clearing. So for heading, I think we got to further define heading. Are you shooting, or you're passing, or you're clearing? And so we almost heading shouldn't be a category, but it's really just the level of heading in the girls' game is just, it's very poor. It's very poor. I don't know how to say it any other way. And the keys to heading the ball well, of course, are footwork, timing, and judgment. And people, when they think about heading, they think about from the neck up. It's really more about your footwork, your judgment, and your timing, and I think we need to improve drastically in that area. And then I would say driving a ball over distance. There are so many players that can't drive a ball over distance. I get a lot of inquiries about our soccer program here, and a youth player might be talking about their strengths, and I always get the same thing. Really good short to medium passer, and I'm like, well, that's, most of the players can pass the ball pretty well short to medium range. Can you pass a longer pass well? Driving a ball with good technique over distance. The difference between the young American players and, say, the Japanese players or the French players or the German players, it's drastic. it's drastic. Even our national teams, struggle in comparing our technical ability with the best in the world. So that would certainly be one. And then tackling. Tackling is a lost art. Tackling is part of our game, and to be able to tackle without going down on the ground, or to go down on the ground and tackle in a safe, effective way is probably one of the biggest weaknesses I also see in the girls' game.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Now let's get into, there's been a couple of questions sent in already, but getting to dealing with parents and how they obviously they fit into helping the player transition to the next level. Leslie, I'll start with you. What role and responsibilities do parents have, and how can coaches work with parents to make sure that their athletes are transitioning properly?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not a parent yet, so I'll speak more from what my parents,
Yes.
how the relationship was with me and my parents playing soccer and the transition from high school to college. My parents were just huge supporters. My parents didn't know a lot about soccer. My sister started playing, so I just started to play because my sister did. And they fell in love with the game through my sister playing and then me playing. And my parents have always really instilled hard work in everything I do, my work ethic. And they just wanted to support me and provide opportunity for me to play all the sports that I wanted to play. So it wasn't just soccer, it was basketball and tennis and volleyball and all these sports. And as I started to get older, we started to realize that my chances of being very good in soccer were getting larger and larger as I got older. And so my parents were just huge supporters. They provided me opportunities to play in the best environments that I could. My junior year in high school, they actually drove me to Chicago 3 times a week to play for a very good club team in Chicago, to give me an opportunity to be seen by coaches around the country rather than playing for my little club in Wisconsin. So my parents were just supporters. They never really analyzed and critiqued my game. They knew I was so hard on myself that when I got in the car with them, it wasn't my mom or dad being like, you shouldn't, they were like, they knew how I played. They knew that I knew how I played. And if anything, they gave me a pick-me-up, or, if I did play well, they'd pat me on the back. It was never like highs and lows with them. They were just like always there for me and just supporting and instilling hard work in me. And when I had a problem with a coach, or if I wasn't playing enough, or if I had an issue, they always encouraged me and forced me to work it out myself. So in terms of parents helping their kids get to the college level, I love the way that my parents worked with me growing up. And I think that sometimes parents are getting overly involved right now, and not forcing their kids, but really encouraging their kids to only play one sport and to dedicate all of their time to one sport. And I think sometimes we're seeing college kids come in here and they're burnt out. They just are burnt out. And for me, I didn't just play soccer until college. I was playing multiple sports growing up, and as much as some coaches might not want to hear this, on the U.S. national team a couple years ago, all 20 of us, there was one player that only played soccer growing up. Everybody else played multiple sports, even in high school. Mm-hmm. So I think having the balance is super important. So in terms of parents, I really appreciate the way my parents were. They always made me responsible for decision making. They were supportive. They were there for me if I needed them, but they also gave a lot of responsibility to me, and I'm very thankful for that.
That's great. Jerry, before you answer that question, I do want to ask Leslie one follow-up question as far as being a multi-sport athlete. Yeah. In my opinion, in my thought, in my head, it seems like that would help with, time management and kind of more skills than just, playing for playing's sake. Can you kind of your thoughts on that, being a multi-sport athlete, at least in high school?
Sure, yeah. So in high school, I played basketball, tennis, and soccer, and it was challenging. My parents, I was lucky enough for them to be able to shuffle me around and doing a lot of carpools and stuff, but playing multiple sports, I got an opportunity to play 3 different sports to work on different movements and different parts to my body. So my footwork, my vision, my hand-eye coordination, my passing ability, a lot of different things, which helped my game in soccer. But also it allowed me to compete as an individual in an individual sport. Tennis, I would get so nervous for. I hated the feeling of going out there by myself and knowing it was just me, and I was really good at it, and my parents couldn't understand, you're so good at it, but I didn't like it. But I needed to be in that moment to know if I go up in a World Cup shootout and I'm going up to take that PK, I need to know that I can do it on my own, and I think that helped me in my game in soccer. It also gave me an opportunity to have different coaches. In volleyball, in tennis, in basketball, I dealt with different kinds of coaches. My basketball coach was a screamer, and he went at me, and it was hard for me, but I grew so much from that. So when I went to college, Jerry wasn't screaming at me, but when I went to professionally and I had a coach screaming at me, I was like, okay, I've done this before. I've been able to deal with this, because I had to figure out a way how I was going to respond to a coach that was kind of verbally abusing us. And so I look at my high school experience and playing multiple sports, and I look at the social side, I look at the different movements in my body that helped me progress to be a better soccer player, time management, figuring out how to go to events, to a game, to practice. And when Jerry was talking about how you have to put in a lot of work in high school, I would literally after school go to basketball practice, then I would go play with the boys club soccer practice. Or when I played high school soccer, I would go to high school practice, then I'd go play with the boys. Sometimes I'd have tennis individuals before going to a club soccer tournaments. I mean, I made a commitment to play in these sports, and up until my senior year, I was able to put close to 100% into all these sports, and I really value the experience that I had playing those sports, and I think it really helped me in my career as a soccer player, in college and professionally.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jerry, getting back to the parents' question, and if you want to chime in on the multi-sport thing, you're more than welcome to as well.
Well, I think on the parent question, I think, you know, it's a funny way to say it, but I've always said it this way: parents are guilty of loving their children. And when they're guilty of loving their children, they're blinded by the love for their children. And so they sometimes will try to coach them or give them advice or, you know, get involved in conversations with their coaches because they love their children so much. They want what's best for them. But I think one of the important things for parents to understand is that slowly but surely you have to let go and you have to trust other people. I think what parents can do is they can work hard to find a great culture for their son or daughter, and then trust the people who are in that culture. I think that's what you really need to do, rather than try to manipulate the culture they're in by interfering with what the coaches are doing. Really work hard at trying to find the best coaching environment. Leslie said that her parents drove her to Chicago, you know, 3 times a week. How far a drive is that?
Hour and 45.
Hour and 45 minutes, you know, each way, so that she could be in a great environment and then trust those people that they're doing their job well. And I think that's an important lesson, and it's a lesson that parents and have to learn before they get to college. We certainly, as collegiate coach, will communicate with our parents. We'll have meetings with our parents. We're happy to talk to parents about goals that we have mutually set together for their daughter who's here. But when it comes to tactics or playing time or you know, some of these issues, really we don't talk to the parents very much about that. They just have to trust that we're making the right decision for the team, and every parent has to understand that what's right for the team doesn't always align perfectly with what's right for their daughter, and that's why we take the parent emotion and bias out of the equation and just let coaches who are really just trying to do what's best for the team make these decisions. And again, parents just have to trust that the coaches are making the right decision. And what we try to do is we try to help each individual, but we try to help each individual accomplish their goal within the team goals. And we're the best. The coaches are always going to be the best at understanding what the team goals are, and I think the parents are looking at it through a different lens than the team goal oftentimes, and that will then cause some friction there. And again, the more parents can kind of understand that during the high school years, the better, because when it gets to college, these are adults. The kids that come and play for us are 18 years old, and our job is to help them through the maturation process and help them grow. But part of the growing process is becoming independent and managing conflicts on your own. And the first time a freshman player has to call a meeting with a coach and talk about something that they're unhappy with is a great growing opportunity. But the students really have to learn to do that on their own. And if they don't have any experience in one-on-one meetings with coaches and having tough conversations with coaches about, hey, I'm not on track, and I want to get on track, and I want to help the team more than I'm helping, and I really need your help. Well, if the parent is constantly doing that for the student athlete during the high school years, the player, they may not go to the coach, and they may just struggle with their problem and not get anywhere with it. But they have to learn to be independent, proactive, and take responsibility for these types of meetings on their own. And the parents have to let them go so they're able to do that. Okay. And regarding the multi-sport, I couldn't agree more with what Leslie said. I think it's important for the players to participate in different sports for so many different reasons, not the least of which is if you just concentrate on one sport, you're liable to suffer some type of overuse injury. Mm-hmm. You might have mental burnout, and you might also suffer an overuse injury by your body doing the exact same thing. By playing different sports, your body gets trained in different ways. You keep the mind fresh, you keep the body fresh. And then there also has to be downtime. We have to factor in some downtime here. So there needs to be at least a few weeks every now and again where you shut your body down where it's not playing a different sport. But I would agree that focusing on one sport could lead to some mental and physical issues that oftentimes we see at the college level, burnout or constantly injured. And I think that playing different sports, in addition to some downtime, helps keep everything a little fresher, and then you get to enjoy a great 4 years in college.
Okay. There's a few more minutes and get some more questions in, but I do want to make sure that we're talking about the Jerry Smith Coaching for Life Academy, and I know you guys have some workshops coming up. Can you just kind of let us know what's coming up in the next few weeks or months, or how long?
Our next workshop is called Creating a Culture of Success in Youth Sports, and so really what we talk about are, and most of what we talk about in the Coaching for Life Academy is everything that's not skill acquisition or tactical awareness. So we talk about things like creating a mission statement and having core values and prioritization and phasing in different things that you want to be able to create. We talk about developing leadership. We talk about what is great leadership and how do we create student-driven leadership. And these things can be started at a pretty young age. And so we talk about all of these being necessary ingredients of creating a culture of success in youth sports. And one of the main goals for the Academy is that all the coaches that we come in contact with will leave a workshop or leave with a degree in having a greater understanding of their responsibility at teaching life skills like the ones I'm mentioning, rather than just how to dribble the ball better or how to head the ball better, or what position to be in defensively. So those are important, don't get me wrong. We're still a soccer team and we want to win games, but these other things are really, really important, and that's probably one of them, kind of the main messages of the Coaching for Life Academy. So that's our next workshop. I'll let Leslie talk about the workshop after that. It's leadership for women in sports.
Yeah. So we have 3 more workshops coming up, and then this summer we're going to try to combine some leadership academies with our sports camps here, just to kind of double dip. A lot of coaches around the country and world want to create better leaders on their team, and so starting to start that process with their players at a young age. How do you be a leader? And this next workshop is exciting, especially being out here in the Bay Area, and it's leadership for women. There are a lot of women in leadership positions here in Silicon Valley, you know, within sports and outside of sports, and so really talking about, you know, how hard it is to be a leader and be a female, or how come some females have gotten to where they're at, what was their process and pathway like. And so we're going to bring in some guest speakers here in the sports industry, you know, a lady who runs the 49ers Foundation, who's a female. She was an ice skater growing up, played collegiately ice skater, and her path, and really kind of digging into, you know, how difficult it is, but how special of an opportunity it is to be a leader and be a female. All these workshops are kind of leading into our master's program that will be created next year in sports leadership. It's just really, it's for all sports. It's not soccer specific. It's for boys and girls, and really teaching, you know, young kids how to be leaders early on in life, not just in their sport. That's really what we're focusing on. It's being a leader in life in all of your areas. And we're excited about our workshops coming up and excited to do stuff with NSCAA.
Yeah, we're partnering with the NSCAA on a few different things, and we've been working with Joe Cummings, who obviously does a great job, and you know, we've talked to Joe about a couple different ideas. You know, basically team management for coaches, maybe a weekend course that we're excited about partnering with, and I think next year potentially, right before the convention, we'll be putting on a half-day or full-day workshop. Again, talking about these same things. We're starting our first class here at the university, which is an intro to sports leadership. The class filled up immediately, so we saw that as a great sign of students wanting to learn more, you know, about these areas, and hopefully, you know, we just continue to grow and grow and grow, and you know, make a bigger and bigger impact in sports.
Great. Well, I think that's all the time I'll hold you for. It's been almost 50 minutes, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do want to thank you, Leslie and Jerry, for your time today, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in as well today. A recording of this discussion will be available probably immediately after we stop broadcast, so you're able to share it with your players, your parents, your fellow coaches, whoever. I do want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with the Coaching for Life Academy, and if you're on nsca.com/live, there is their logo off to the right. Just click that logo and you can visit that site to get more information. I also want to make note of some of the things that's coming up for the NSCAA. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our new e-learning initiative. It's nsca.com/e-learning. Essentially, it's education when you want it, where you want it, how you want it, 24/7. So be sure to check that out. And we also have a couple of great things coming up, which we'll announce very soon. One of which we already announced is our World Cup experience. So if you go to nsca.com/events, you'll find information there. So again, thank you, Jerry and Leslie, and we hope to see more of you. Well, we will see more of you very, very soon. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.